Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to be with y'all. Lovely to see each of you. Yes. Yes. Okay, please sign up for our upcoming retreat. It's the first weekend in November, November 3rd through the 5th, 2023. And this might be the last retreat of the year. There might be one a little bit after Christmas. I'm not certain, but yeah, please come. Please come. Please come. Retreats are always a wonderful opportunity to us to deepen together as a Sangha, and they are an opportunity to awaken to your highest nature. And so let's do this right now. Let's close our eyes. And I invite you to take a deep breath and to relax the body and to notice in this moment what is here that is awake and aware. What is here in this moment, in the here and now, which is awake and aware? What is here which is silently witnessing all the various sensations of the body, the emotions, different aches and pains? What is here in this moment? That sees, that hears, from a place of supreme silence, supreme emptiness, which is what is here, which simply is. Which simply is. And can you give yourself permission to take a couple more deep, full breaths and to fall back into the direct experience of isness, beingness? And if you can do this directly, beautiful. Rest here. And for those of you still struggling with thoughts and the egoic identification, is it possible to put all that down? Is it possible to put down the character, the role, the personality, and all the struggle that goes with that? And give yourself this precious gift of putting it all down and simply being awake to that which hears the sound of my voice. Can you be awake to the silence and the spaciousness of this very moment? Can you be awake to the silence, which surrounds every thought, which surrounds every sound, which surrounds every sensation that arises in the space of this body. Can we be so simple as to pay attention to this radiant silence, which is the very fabric of our consciousness? And to notice what happens. What happens to your experience? Of yourself when you simply pay attention to the silence. For some of you, you may notice this funny thing that happens when we pay attention to silence. We begin to notice that what we are is this radiance, is this silence, is this peace, is this awake, aware spaciousness, just radiating with light. And if you notice, you let go of the human personality self. The majority, if not all, of the problems, the desires, the issues of that self begin to disappear as well. How interesting is that? When we allow ourselves just to focus inward on what we are. We allow awareness to be awake and aware to itself, of itself. Everything else kind of becomes irrelevant. And can you trust that it's okay? Just to put down the story of the character, just for a little bit. To put the story down just for a little bit. And to be the hugeness of what you are. This expansiveness. What is life like when we allow ourselves just to be this? Just to be this. without any problem. Without any problem. And can we drink up some of this freedom? Can we enjoy it? And can we smile? But yeah, maybe I don't need to be that character, that human character. Who was rejected or beat up by life in one form or another. What if I become that which is unrejectable? That which is indestructible? That which is ineffable? It's a different kind of way of living, of being. And so I'm going to invite you just to stay with your experience. If you like, you can open your eyes. And I will welcome you more fully into this moment, more fully here. And so our whole human life, we are taught that we are this person, this character. We take on this identity. We take on all kinds of roles. And with that, we take on all kinds of beliefs, and we start believing all those thoughts in our mind, and we think that those thoughts are ours. And we develop this whole persona. In Zen, we call this the imaginary sense of self. I am this person. I have this job. I'm in this relationship. And I have lots of needs. I need everyone to listen to me. I need everyone to agree with me. I need people to like me. And I can like split myself off from myself, and I can not like myself, which is a really bizarre thing that human ego psychology does, is where it's like we can hate our own self. Like, how crazy is that? To hate oneself, to judge oneself, to attack oneself. To blame oneself. Like having this, it's like a normal way of being where we split ourselves into all these parts. And of course, we don't do this consciously. And then all the parts are fighting with each other. I can remember I was sitting with someone, and he said something, and he said, I hate myself. I wish I was dead. And I was just like, wow, geez, what did you do? That was so bad. And like, is this any way to live? To be so utterly divided against oneself, to be divided against our neighbors. Like, what if we just step back from the whole experience of being human and just to look at it? How crazy it is to take on this character and to guard and to fight and defend this character. Like, some people, it's like, my God, if you disagree with their politics, it's like they might hate you forever because somehow we questioned like their beliefs, or we disagreed with their beliefs. It's like, how fragile is our sense of self that we cannot handle it if someone, I don't know, passes us on the road and it's like we can't handle it. Like we have to fight, we have to race. Someone comes into our personal bubble. I can remember the first time I went and saw Amma. This is before I went to India. And when I went and saw Amma, there was all these Indian people there. And we would all stand in line, for darshan. And the Indian people would stand like up against my body, like touching my body. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? I didn't say that, but I had that thought like, what are you doing? Why are you standing so close to my personal space? Like here's Americans, like we have this big personal space bubble. In India, you don't have any personal space. Like there's too many people. So they don't have personal space. It's not a thing. Like here in the United States, we have this massive bubble around us. But it's a pure illusion. It's just something that we think we need to be safe. We think we need to be safe. I mean, this lady who was standing like right up against me, she wasn't dangerous. Like there was no danger. It's just like, wow, she's just really close. I could have just smiled and not had an issue with it. But I almost got out of line because I couldn't handle someone up in my business. Up in my business. See, the personal psychology, we have all these ideas of how people should behave around me, in relationship to me. Like how many of us have had a thought, my partner is supposed to love me in every single moment of my life. They're never allowed to disagree. They're here to meet all my needs. They're here to satisfy me. They're here to take care of me. But what if for a moment we just stepped out of our personal sense of self? Like when we step out of our personal sense of self and we just be, if we just are the divinity that we are, the radiance that we are, the light that we are, the love that we are, we don't need anyone to be anything to us, for us, in relationship to us. We don't need to be heard. We don't need to be seen. We don't need to be addressed in a certain way. I can remember for a long time, I had a friend, and his wife used to say this thing. It was great. She said, "You speak with angry and harsh tones." And he would come to the job site every day and he'd complain about his wife. She's always saying I speak in these angry and harsh tones. And we would make fun of him for it, because he was always complaining about what his wife said. And it's like, what if he didn't take offense to it? Like if he didn't take offense, if he wasn't busy guarding himself, defending himself. Now, this woman also said something hilarious to him. I just have to repeat it because it's so funny. Uh, they were a young family, and they had a little baby, and mama was busy nursing the baby. And occasionally she would get mad at him because he wasn't able to nurse. Now, him being in a male body, it wasn't possible. But she pulled up something. I think this was before the internet, maybe the beginning of the internet. But she said something to him. This was awesome. I just have to say it. She said, some men in Africa raised their children and they were able to produce milk. And listen, I have never heard that to be true. I have no idea, but we just thought it's hilarious. And so we'd give him a hard time on the job site too, because he wasn't able to produce milk. And, so sometimes she would say things to him, like she would blame him and judge him for things he probably could do something about, and then other things he couldn't do anything about. But he would fight with her just constantly. The two of them would just fight. And eventually, of course, they ended up getting a divorce. The hilarious thing that happened just about a year or so later, they both rented houses, like in this neighborhood actually that I'm living in right now. And there was a creek that ran through the neighborhood. In fact, I used to live in the house before. I used to live in this house and had a creek. There's my house and there's a creek, and then there's this other house like on the other side of the creek. Eventually, one day, his ex-wife rented the house across the creek, and he rented my old house, the house on the other side of the creek. And they had a child that they just shared, and the kid would just run back and forth between the houses. And the two parents, like, they found a way to get along. They found a way to get along. And one of the big things that happened is they stopped expecting each other to make them happy. They just lived their lives as two autonomous beings. And they gave up on wanting the other person, needing the other person to complete them. Now, of course, they could have done this while they were married, but I'm not going to get too much into their relationship. But I thought it was humorous. It was just humorous. Just, we can destroy a relationship. Now, in fact, I'd say that the majority of relationships, that end are because we took ourself, our personality self, too seriously. Too seriously. And there's a great freedom that comes when we let go of such a heavy and intense identification with the character, whatever character we take ourselves to be. Whatever character we take ourselves to be. Now, please, I don't want anyone to take this teaching into here, oh, the ego's bad, I need to get rid of myself. That's not the way I want to teach, because people end up doing a lot of violence to themselves, trying to get rid of their egoic self or their personality self. What I'd like instead is if we see this character that we've been all of our life, and maybe just didn't take that character so seriously. If we softened around the identification with this character. Now, I went on a hike today. I actually got snowed on today, just for a minute. And, I was with some friends, and it was just one of these situations where I was with all women, all girls. It was actually two moms and three little girls. One of them was a baby. And not my wife, but the other mom looked at me and said, "Craig, what's it like being in a house with all these girls? Like, what is that like?" And I just smiled and I said, "I'm just a punching bag. I'm a punching bag." But I could smile. I could laugh a little bit. It wasn't like, "I'm a punching bag and it's so hard for me and you don't understand. No one understands what it's like to be a man." I didn't say that. I didn't really identify. I just smiled. Like, I know these girls, they beat me up all day long. But because I don't take it seriously, I I can just kind of sway with it. I can just sway with it. And it doesn't do anything to me. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make me cry. I don't have to go write in my journal. But my little girl was mean to me, and my wife was mean to me, and my oldest daughter was mean to me. Like I don't have to write that in my journal. When they give me a hard time, I can smile and I can laugh. And I can continue to see their beauty and their goodness and their divinity. And of course, I can see their frustration and their heartache, and maybe actually listen to what they're saying and maybe adjust my behavior if it's appropriate, or just to let it, wash over me if they're complaining about things that, aren't my fault or I can't control. So when you're free of self, life is it's just a lot easier. It's just a lot easier. And, that's another way of saying there's freedom in it. There's freedom in it. In order to wake up, to actually wake up, we have to let go of our attachment to our human, egoic personality self. It's like we just need to let go of that if we want to experience freedom, if we want to experience happiness. It's very hard to be happy if you identify with a mask. Like that's what the psychological self is. It's a mask. It's a mask that we wear. Like when I see y'all next lifetime, I know some of you say that you're not coming back to the planet Earth, but I'll say this. When I see y'all next time, I'll be wearing a different mask. Who knows what kind of mask I'll be wearing? Maybe I'll be in an alien body or something. Maybe it'll be one of the Pleiadians. Maybe I'll have a different color. Maybe I'll be one of those beautiful golden brown beings. Maybe I'll have a big Hawaiian body. Maybe I'll be a little person. Who knows like what I'll be? Who knows? But this essence, this presence will still be here, just in a different form. In a different form. And like if we deeply look at ourselves, we deeply look at this egoic identity, like maybe we could all play this game right now if we close our eyes and we go inward. I invite you just to look around and see if you can find like this solid egoic self inside. Like, can you find her? Can you find him? Can you find them? Like does this self, like, can you find an age? Can you find a gender? Can you find a color? Can you find an ethnicity? Like if you just experience yourself, just the essence of what you are. And again, nothing wrong. Like if you have some kind of sense of, I have a sense that I'm 52 years old and I was born in New York City. Like you're gonna have that sense. That's fine. But like, see if you can look deeper than that. Nothing wrong if that's one of the things you find, but this essence that you are, this essence, does it have an age? Does it have a name? Like, does it actually identify with the number? How many years old we are? Is not this thing timeless, eternal, radiant? This essence that you are, isn't it beyond the body? Isn't it beyond the body? And can you notice a freedom that comes when you let go of a body, when you let go of the personality? Can you notice the freedom that comes when you don't have any politics? When you're not worried about climate change, whatever it is. Like, as we all open in this moment, you start to feel like you are the ocean. You are the sky. Doesn't feel much like I am this body. I am a New Yorker. When you step into this essence, you see that there is something that's here that is awake and aware and mysterious. And there's a freedom, a freedom, a freedom. And can we enjoy this freedom? Can we be this freedom? Can we be it? But to the degree that we identify with our personality self is, well, to the same degree that we're not free. So the more we hold on to this identity is the more we hold on to a veil. A veil. Like, if we could all just be a Buddha, just step into this just for a moment. Buddha nature. And now I'd like you to think about your politics. I identify as a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. Like, you see, it just becomes so limiting all of a sudden as soon as we take that on. As soon as we take that on. Whereas when we step into Buddha nature, free of politics, beyond politics, we step into Buddha nature beyond birth and death. You see, there's something quite incredible here. Something quite incredible. And so this is the invitation of Satsang, is to step into reality, to live in reality. And by all means, like, I'm a family man, I've got a busy life. We all have a job that we must do. And sometimes people say, well, how am I supposed to do my job? We can show up fully for life. We can be a part of life. We can maintain a career, a business. We can raise kids. We can be in relationship. We can actually do it quite efficiently with not much ego identity. We can. It's absolutely possible. But the ego, it has like kind of a sales pitch. You need me. Like, I have to steer the ship and, make sure we keep it between the lines. We have to have all that self-consciousness. Like, do we? Like, do I need a huge degree of self-consciousness? I mean, we really just need a very small degree of self-consciousness. And that self-consciousness might help you brush your teeth, wear clean clothes, throw your clothes in the washer when they're dirty, but like, we don't need a lot of self-consciousness. We don't need like all these thoughts on top of thoughts on top of thoughts. Right now, like I hang out with a lot of guys, and even though I don't know if that's true what I just said, I hang out with a lot of guys. Sometimes I hang out with guys. Most of the time I'm hanging out with all these girls at my house. But like when I hang out with guys, like sometimes they talk about football. Now, football, I just can't get in it. I can't get into it. I can't identify with it. It's just not my thing. I just can't. But if you watch football, you watch any sport, there's normally a couple guys, occasionally they'll have a girl or two, who are the commentators. They're just talking about what's happening on the field. But I assure you, you can play football without a commentator. So a commentator is just what our self-consciousness is. Just this thing always commenting about ourselves, how we're doing, how we think other people are doing, what we think about what people are doing to us, what do we think we're going to do next with them? And it's like all this commenting. When we live in Buddha nature, we surrender the commentator and we just live. When you're hungry, you eat. We're not thinking, is this keto? Is this a part of the keto diet? Is this vegan? Is this good for me? When we live without self-consciousness, when we're hungry, we just eat. And the ego, I know what it'll say, is like, yeah, but we might just end up just eating junk food. Like we need to have this self-consciousness here to regulate and maintain and to, have a bunch of rules about what our diet is. When you're connected to Buddha nature, when you step into and become Buddha nature, there is an inherent intelligence just in being. Just in being. And I will assure you that this intelligence is much greater than the intelligence of the mind. Much greater. Now, a couple of days ago, I can't remember when it was, maybe it was Friday, I went to the hot springs. And when I was at the hot springs, it'll sound silly, I went to the cold tub. So I'm in the hot springs, but I decided to go to the cold tub. And there's these two tubs together. They're actually really beautiful, these big concrete tubs, and they're in the shape of a yin and a yang. And so one of them is the warm one, or the hot one. It's like 100 and I can't remember. I think it was 104 degrees. And the cold one was 49 degrees. And so it can be a fun thing to kind of go back and forth from really hot to really cold. And anyways, well, there was this couple there that was in these tubs with us. And, the guy, like me and the guy hopped in the cold tub. And his girlfriend started saying, how do you do that? How do you go in there? How do you stay in that tub? She was kind of talking in a real whiny way, got like a nagging voice. And she was just kind of like nagging at him, like, how do you do it? And he just sat there and he just shut his mouth. He didn't say anything to her. And she just kept talking and talking because he was kind of ignoring her, and finally, when he got out of the cold, and then she said, what are you doing in there? And he said, I'm just being. I'm just being. said, what is that? What is just being? Like, what do you mean? What is like all these things she kept saying to her. I actually got up and left because I didn't enjoy her company very much. I was like, geez, girl, relax. Like, relax. We're at the hot springs. Relax, chill out. Like, that's what we're here to do. And, he started to say, I'm just sitting here. I'm just breathing. And she's like, how do you do that? Why do you do that? Why are you doing that? And really what she was saying is like, why are you ignoring me? Why are you abandoning me? Like, your psychological self is not here with me, holding me, touching me, being affectionate, talking to me, entertaining me. And he was just trying to be a good little Buddhist, just to be, And when it's 49 degrees, in the cold plunge, like he was just trying to be just for like a minute, just a minute without speaking, without entertaining, without performing. It's like our culture is so divorced from this reality. Like, we always think, I need to be doing, creating, building, achieving. Like, even in the realm of spirituality, I need to be relaxing. But relaxation cannot actually happen until we let go. Being cannot actually happen until we surrender. Until we give ourselves a break and let something else, something greater, take over. Something greater. Now, when I went up to the mountains today, like right now I'm at 6,500 feet. But we went up to like 11 or 12,000 feet, so almost double. And this is actually my first time up in the like the real high country. I think it's my first time in about 2 years, because I've had this real difficult health condition that makes it hard for me to breathe in the mountains. But anyways, my wife said I want to go, and I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I went up there, and it was hard. Like, it was hard for my body. It was hard. It was just hard to breathe is what it was. And I think for most people, get up at 12,000 feet is probably pretty hard to breathe, but normally it wouldn't. Like, if I didn't have this disorder, that's what I'll call it, it wouldn't be so hard for me to breathe. I'm normally accustomed to being up at like 12,000 feet, no big deal. But anyway, so I was having a hard time. Started to get a little lightheaded, started to pant a little bit, and I started to get a little dizzy, so I was getting a little altitude sickness. And my wife looked at me and she said, are you okay? And this little bit of psychological self started to come online. I was like, we're not okay. We shouldn't stay up here very long. We should probably go back home. But I just took a couple deep breaths and just, well, let's just see. Let's just see what happens. And so we hiked around for a little bit. And I mean, we weren't doing any extreme hiking. We were hiking with a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a baby, and 3 dogs. And so we were just going on a little family hike, nothing too strenuous. I took it easy. My breath was able to catch up. And this story that came forward, the story, I don't even know if it came from my psychological self. I think maybe it came from the consciousness of my body. I began to realize the story, it wasn't the truth. It wasn't the truth. Like, I was okay. I was okay. It was okay. Life was okay. But sometimes our psychological self or the consciousness of our body or our emotional nature can just get carried away. We have a little bit of difficulty. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It goes into, oh my God. Versus if we just take a moment, or maybe we take 5 minutes. Like, if someone ever attacks your politics, and if you just breathe for 5 minutes without thinking of your rebuttal and how you need to correct them and how they're wrong, if you just breathe and relax and not engage, you realize it's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm okay. They're okay. Like, it's okay. We're going to be okay. Okayness is here. Okayness is here. But our psychological self, it wants to know everything, have everything figured out, be right all the time, be always loved, always heard, always seen. It's like, my God, we're going to fail. We're going to fail with these demands. Now, your being nature is okay all the time. Your being nature, what is that which is awake and aware, is okay all the time. And so on this path, we have this choice. And this choice is where you get your power from. And if you do not make this choice, you'll suffer greatly. And so the choice is a choice of identification. If we choose to identify with that which is awake and aware, you will step into the land of freedom. If we choose to be that which is fearful, which is egoic, that which is guarded, that which is defended, we will suffer. And sometimes the spiritual path comes down to something so utterly simple as this. If we choose to identify with that which is awake and aware, it's like 95% of our problems just fall away immediately. You still can have some difficulties, of course. Like, I still have difficulty with my body. But all the other problems, like all the, am I liked? Am I loved? Do they hear me? What are they thinking about me? Am I good? Am I bad? Am I going to hell? Like, all this, we can think ourselves crazy. Like, some people are afraid of their partners. That's crazy. To be afraid, to be fearful of the people we love. It shows like there's some kind of confusion or disconnection inside. It's like, what is going on? Or we place a demand on our partner. They have to be happy all the time. They can never be upset. They certainly can't be upset with me because I feel so uncomfortable if they're, it's like, come on. If you just be that which is awake and aware, and your partner's having a hard day, you don't take it personally. And you don't blame them. You see them. They're human. They're having a hard time. It's okay. My humanness has a hard time. That's okay. You see, like what the Buddha taught, that life is dukkha. Life can be emotionally challenging. And to the degree that we identify with our emotions, which are challenged, our sense of self, which is challenged, is to the degree that we suffer. But to the degree that we identify with that which is awake and aware, that which is divine, that which is radiant, that which is spacious, that which is empty, that which is peaceful, that which is compassionate, is to the degree that we are free. And this choice is here in every moment of our life. This primary question of who am I? Am I the psychological self? Like, is that what I am? Am I this body, this age, this gender, this personality who grew up in this family, who had this crazy mother, this crazy father, this abusive brother and sister? Like, is that what I am? Is that what I am? Like some people, they identify with their diet. I am a vegan. Everyone else needs to be a vegan or I'm not going to be happy. And then like my father, he used to do this beautiful thing on Christmas. He'd cook this gigantic roast. I'd call it a roast beast, like they cooked in the Grinch, roast beast. So my father would cook a big roast beast and he'd take a picture of it. It's like he didn't take a picture of his family. He took a picture of his meat that he made for Christmas and he would send it out on a Christmas card. Like the following year, this is last year's Christmas roast beef, whatever it was, rib roast. I don't know what the heck it was. It's a big pile of meat. And he took a picture of it and he sent it out. Most people, they send out pictures of their families and they talk about who's graduating college, who's getting married, who's having a baby, who did this and that. My dad sent a picture of the meat and it's like, I could take great offense. My father doesn't love me. He doesn't see me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't understand me. Or I could just laugh hysterically. My father has one son who's an army man and two raging hippies. And he's busy taking a picture of a big meat for his Christmas card. So anyways, if I want to take offense, I can. Like if I want to suffer, I can. If I want to laugh and smile, I can. Now, please, I don't want anyone to misunderstand me here. That part of me that does want my father to love me. Like, well, what do I do with that? Like, that'd be a great question. What do you do with that, Craig? Like, you can try to just see through it. And if that works, beautiful. But there's a good chance there's going to be part of you that doesn't just like disappear completely once you see through it. There'll be part of you that might say, hey, I'm actually still hurting. And I do need my lover and my father and my mother and my sister and my brother to see me and to hear me and to love me. And so that's a moment for our Buddha nature, that which is awake and aware within us, to respond with compassion to our own humanity. Can I do the thing that I'm wanting everyone else to do for me? Can I see me? Can I love me? Can I hold me? Can I hold me? Can I see me? Can I hold me? Can I love me? the true I, holding the human part that feels disconnected, that feels needy, that feels insecure. So if we just see through it and it disappears, beautiful. If we see through it, but we're really just ignoring our human self, that's called spiritual bypassing. That's not the best thing. But sometimes if we just come into a real place of clarity, we can see, I don't need everybody to love me. I don't need everybody to like me. If I see myself fully and completely, I see what's here is divine. And when I recognize that, my whole body relaxes. The whole egoic sense of self relaxes. And I don't need anyone to come hold my hand. Because I'm always holding my own hand. And so please, I don't want anyone to hear the teaching tonight and think that we're just here to bypass ourselves. Like a lot of our human self is just like a big conditioned monster that's like, when you start to see through it, you see like a lot of it just pops and fizzles out, and you realize, yeah, I don't really care that much what other people think. Like, I don't need to be liked. It's okay if someone disagrees with me. It's okay. It's okay. And in that okayness is freedom. In that okayness is freedom. And so I hope there was something in there for each of you. It's a great question, to ask just throughout the day. Am I taking myself way too seriously? And just anytime you find yourself offended, it's a great question to ask. Am I taking myself too seriously? Am I taking life too seriously? Am I placing like some crazy demand on life? Like everyone must like me? I got in this conversation the other day. I was coming out of jujitsu, and one of my a friend of mine, he's a police officer, and like right outside where I practice jujitsu is like, there's like a whole area that there's a park right outside. So I practice jujitsu right on the river. On the river is a river trail, and in the last couple of years in Durango, actually the last 5 years, we have had just a tremendous influx of homeless. And I have great compassion for folks who are homeless. I've spent a lot of time in my past working with homeless folks, and whether it's women at the women's shelter, children, like students of mine who are homeless, families that were homeless, like great compassion for that. But that there's some people who just want to hang out on the river and, just do a lot of drugs and not work and just sit in front of the hippie natural food store and just ask everyone for money and then go buy drugs and drink all day. It's like, there's those folks. So I asked police officers, like, hey, like, what's going on with these guys? It appears that y'all are just letting them just camp wherever, and like, is there anything like y'all can do about that? And I can say, like, there's been actually a number of violent altercations with these folks. These ones that I'm referring to. So anyways, we got into a little conversation. I was just talking to him a little bit, and Like it's unsafe. It became to the point of like our little town park. I won't take my kids there anymore. And my daughter, she's been harassed by a number of these fellas, and one of her friends was even pulled into the bushes and assaulted. So it's like a legitimate problem. This isn't like, oh, we need to be more compassionate. This is no. There needs to be some police intervention. And I was just talking to my friend, and was like, hey, like, is there anything you can do about that? And immediately the conversation, it just turned south. It like just went to some bizarre place. And he started to like unload all his feelings about the homeless. And but he came at me like with this real tone and this like negativity. And he seemed like he was arguing with me. And I was like, I was confused because I'm like, I'm not sure I'm arguing or blaming you or thinking it's your fault in any way. But he got the idea that I was blaming him. And as a police officer, um, he wasn't in his like, he wasn't on the job. Like, he was coming out of the gym with me. And I realized, oh, like as a police officer all day long, people are lying to you, people are blaming you, people are wanting you to do something about things like a lot of times you don't have control over. Like you start to get pretty fired up saying, Craig, I would like to arrest these people, but when I arrest them and I send them to court, they don't go to court, and the judge just eternally dismisses them. Like we've got like a real liberal court system where I live, and in the olden days, it's like if you rode a skateboard on Main Street, they'd give you a ticket, and you have to pay a fine. There's like now it's like you can just hang out and live in a tent and smoke marijuana and shoot up heroin and just like throw your needle on the ground, and they literally will not arrest you. And so I was like, God, this crazy world we live in. Um, and again, like I know the problem is multifaceted. I've worked in every frontline aspect of it, from community mental health to working at the shelter to teaching kids to doing school and try to get people employed. And so again, like I don't want anyone to hear I'm not compassionate toward the homeless. And I've also worked in substance abuse uh, counseling. I did that for a long period of time. Anyways, my friend kept coming at me, and I realized, oh, like he thinks I'm attacking him. He thinks I'm blaming him. And he was just like lost in his own personal psychological sense of self of being a police officer and always being blamed and attacked and had the finger pointed at him. And and also feeling stressed. He said, look, we get 120 phone calls a day, and there's only 4 of us. He's like, it's a tremendously stressful job. And I was like, and it was like 40 minutes later, he was still telling me how difficult it was, the situation with the homeless and his thoughts and ideas and how hard it is and how it's not his fault. And he just was like fully lost in his psychological nature. And I realized like I could have taken a side. I could have agreed. I could have disagreed. I could have told him my thoughts about it. But I just sat there and I listened and I let him unload and unload and unload and unload. And then finally at the end, he just said, thank you. I think I just needed someone to hear me. I just needed someone to hear me. I said, yeah, of course, of course, of course. And he walked away at peace. He walked away at peace. It's like he emptied out all that psychological material on me. And I stayed open. I didn't get involved. I didn't take a side. I didn't pick up some political agenda of the far right or the far left or be the middle, whatever. It's like I didn't do anything but just listen. And the funny thing is when we deeply listen to another human being and they exhaust their human psychological self, there's this wonderful opportunity right there after they've just fully exhausted all their thoughts and their ideas, where they just come to a place of peace. Come to a place of peace. Come to a place of peace where they don't have to be. They don't have to be. What did he describe himself? He said, Craig, everyone always takes everything out like on frontline workers. They take everything out on the police, they take everything out on nurses, and often it is things that the police can't do anything about. Nurses can't do anything about. It's like if you ever go to the hospital, you take your mom to the hospital, and we just start yelling at the nurse because of policies at the hospital. It's like the nurse doesn't make the policies, and the police don't make the laws. Don't make the laws. It's just their job to attend to. And when we can give someone the gift of truly listening, being with them in a space of silence, sometimes their humanity can work itself out. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in silence. And they realize, I am okay. I am okay. I am. I am okay even when it's not okay. I am okay. That's the gift of satsang. That's the gift of retreat. Because oftentimes these things come up and they just work themselves out. They just work themselves out. If we sit and allow all that which is here to empty, 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 eventually it can work itself out. And so it's good to be with y'all. I think I'm going to call it a night. I hope that's okay with y'all. So much love to each of you. Please sign up for the retreat if you feel called to come. And I'm going to encourage you to play with this question. Like here in the United States, we're coming into Halloween season where we put on these costumes. But I'm going to invite you to look at the costume that you are wearing right now. And just ask, is this the costume I want to wear? Sometimes we have a costume of unworthiness. Sometimes we wear the costume of, I don't like myself. Now, if you come to my house, my wife has this big bin of Halloween costumes, costume clothes. And I never know what I'm going to be on Halloween, until 5 minutes before I go out with the kid. But I'll put on 3 or 4 different costumes. I'll see, do I like this one? Nope. And I take it off and put on another one. But this Halloween season, this moment, I'm going to invite you, look at the costume you're wearing. And if there's anything about it that doesn't fit, that doesn't suit, that doesn't create a sense of happiness or spaciousness or love or peace or divinity, doesn't support you in the highest, I'm going to invite you to take that thing off and to run around naked. Run around naked. I'm going to leave you all with that. Okay. Good night, everyone. So much love to you. Peace.